Well, rather than driving them to the edge of a cliff, you have to make sure there's a net down there.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they're going to keep pushing against it.
They're just going to keep pushing against it forever if you don't provide them with something with a safety net.
So how are we doing at that at this point, and what would the ideal safe haven look like?
Well, I don't think that there's one ideal safe haven. I think that, you know, people are diverse and atheists are diverse, and everybody's going to need something somewhat different. I think we are already doing a fairly good job of getting positive humanist ideals and philosophies out into the world, and it's a little bit difficult because that's not what the news media wants to cover. They want to cover the conflicts and the arguments, and you know, it's you know, nice humanist doesn't make a great headline. But I think that we're doing a certain amount of this. I'd like to see us doing more. I'd also love to see us doing a better job at providing a replacement for the social structures that religion provides for people. That's a lot of what people look to religion for. It's not necessarily, you know, it's like, you know, you ask somebody, why did you join this church? And it's not because, oh, well, I found their arguments, you know, their theology based on the ontological argument to be very persuasive. It's because it's because they like the people, there's support, you know, the people are friendly, the people are welcoming, you know, there's childcare, there's, you know, good coffee, whatever. And I would like to see us do a better job at providing a really good in the flesh, not just online, but in the flesh support networks and, you know, regular meeting places and, you know, that type of thing. So that when people do leave religion, they don't feel quite so unmoored.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming and sitting with us today, and I want to wish you well on the rest of your tour, and I'll continue to forward all of your articles on Facebook.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. This was really fun, and thank you so much. Yeah. I appreciate it.
It's too late. All right.
It is.
Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you so much. I had a ball. This was really excellent.
It's good to be able to...
And now, for something completely different, we have some news for you.
Yeah, this one comes out of Alabama. Always
I
like to think of it as a cradle of progressive and Enlightenment thought.
There are some there. I've spent time in Alabama.
Oh yeah, it can be lonely to be a free thinker in Alabama. Actually, that kind of reminds me of something Hitchens did when he was doing his book tour for God Is Not Great, is that he specifically asked to be sent through the Bible Belt. That he wanted to hit basically the parts of the state where you didn't expect to see any atheists, and it was packed every single time, and half of the people who came to those events all thought that they were the only atheist in town.
Yeah. I lived in Phoenix for a number of years, and for a while I thought I was the only humanist I knew. And then I moved up here, and the AHA conference was in Phoenix, and I saw some of the people running. It's like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
How come we never talked about this?
It's the weirdest thing, and I mentioned this in sort of the interview, I think, is that a lot of times when you're the only person to say, you know, I'm an atheist, like, that event happens where you sort of assert what you are and what you believe.
Yeah.
People come up to you afterwards and say,
thank you for
hey,
saying that.
thank you for saying that. I am too.
That's actually happened to me a couple times already.
Yeah,
so.
that I'm the only one. And I think that was one of the connections that Greta always makes usually to the LBGT movement.
Yeah.
Is that there's that one person who is brave enough to be out, and that's the person that everyone else comes out to privately. So I think that's an important part of having the show.
That's how my dad got comfortable with the whole atheism thing.
I thought it was.
Hi, Dad.
I thought it was because
you friended him. I share a name with my dad
on Facebook,
and my dad and Mike were friends for a year before they realized that it was the wrong Sam Mulvey.
This is on Facebook.
This is on Facebook, and my dad for a while was kind of, ooh, atheism. You've abandoned the family agnosticism. It's like, hey, it's all right. But it took a year of listening to you talk and the conversations that we would all have for him to finally call me up and say, yeah, you guys are okay.
Yeah.
We might want to do the news story, actually.
Yeah, let's do the news story. Yeah, this comes out of Alabama. This is the Birmingham Examiner, basically. This Examiner is a site where people can post or blog. Proselytizing results in library ban for Alabama teen. Caleb Hansen is a 16-year-old young man, and he's been banned from all branches of the Chattahoochee Valley Regional Library System for 6 months, not for failing to return books, but for disrupting library business bordering on criminal trespassing. Hansen, who's from Phoenix City, Alabama, a town that shares a Georgia border with Columbus, attends the First Assembly of Church God in Phoenix City. According to a letter from Kirsten Edwards, who's acting as manager of the North Columbus Public Library, Mr. Hansen was accosting library patrons and asking them as they were attempting to enter the facility. He was asking them about their religious faith and offering biblical advice.
Right.
Basically, this is a homeschool kid who, I don't know, there's a weird thing that happens with Christianity in the United States. I think they believe, much as the Blues Brothers did, that they are on a mission from God. And
chosen by God is a phrase they use a lot.
That
hang out in the library.
The usual rules of etiquette, of walking up to a stranger and harassing them with something, just don't apply, because what I'm harassing them about supersedes all the usual conversational
There's a bunch
rules.
of lines here that I'm always a little afraid to cross, much like when we have that thing with the signs down in Olympia, is that a library is property owned and operated by the government. So theoretically, I mean, you know, you'd think that it's kind of a free speech zone. Mm-hmm. However, it's a service to the community, these libraries. They're there for citizens to go there and read and participate and learn so that they can be better citizens. And he's allowed to say stuff at the library. What he's not allowed to do is impede the access of library patrons to the resources of the library.
Yeah, make it impossible for them to use library resources. I mean, if I was, and I'm somebody who works in retail, and we've had this sort of experience before where we had a customer who came in.
I love
he was an Amway guy. I don't know if you know Amway. Amway's about as close to a secular religion as you can. If you doubt this, meet somebody who sells Amway and
some
criticize
would say not secular. I've seen Amway listed on those cult websites, like watch out for these cults.
Oh, man.
And it'd be like the family, and then Amway. Like,
Amway.
Wait, what? And
I actually worked at a movie theater in high school, and I had a boss who tried to sell Amway on everybody. And I was familiar with the sales pitch that he would toss out, because I'd heard everyone else tell this story about the Amway. And this was actually an interesting story, because this guy, who was very much like Michael Scott on The Office, even had a screenplay the district manager had to release off the theater's computer.
Right.
It had ninjas in it.
Oh, nice.
This is a weird boss. He claimed to have ninja training. He was a weird dude. Seriously, watch The Office if you want to get an idea of what it was like working for this dude. Anyways, he was big on Amway. And like Amway, it's a pyramid scheme where basically you have, like a vampire, you try to accrue minions under you. And those people try to accrue minions of their own. And generally speaking, only the person at the top 15% ends up making any money on
Minions!
Minions! Fly! The fun thing with it is that you're so desperate to accrue minions. I don't really know of anyone who pitches Amway that actually talks about the products they sell. They talk about selling Amway.
Yeah, it was a number of years before I figured out that Amway actually had products.
Yeah, I didn't know what they did. I thought they just recruited people. It was like joining Heaven's Gate.
I thought it was kind of like the Elks.
Yeah.
It was a club, and what do they do? I don't know, we get together. All right.
So anyways, my boss comes up to me, and this is when we always get to see free movies on Thursday night as they were spooling it up. And as we went through the process, this manager approached me and said, "Mike, you're a pretty smart guy, right?" And I was like, "Oh, crap," inside my head. And I'm just like, okay, here we go. I'm going to have to say no to him. It was like an after-school special, but instead of like, the 12-year-old kid with a joint, it's my boss.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually told him the biggest lie. At that time, I was thinking about going to an art school. And have you ever told a lie where as it comes out of your mouth, it is just a pile of crap, and you're dreading it, but you just have to keep talking. You got to get it out and I'm like, well, I don't want to make money. I want to go into art school, and I feel that if I make money, it'll hurt my integrity as an artist. And I'm just like, oh, inside I'm like, there's no way he's buying this. There's no way he's buying this. And he goes, I can respect that. And I'm like, oh, and run away.
It worked?
It worked.
Oh, man.
It's like, the only worst lie I could think of to tell him is, well, I'm actually a robot and not eligible to work for Amway. But anyways.
I'm from Mars.
That's that same sort of thing, the idea that you just sort of accost somebody in public. And we kicked this dude out.
Yeah.
Not before you challenged my manager to a fight.
Really?
It's kind of a hard sell for Amway normally. But anyways, this kid goes into libraries. He's harassing patrons. And it's just amazing. And it goes back into this thing where people try to say that atheists, like us, were somehow disrespectful or pushy or angry or militant. We don't do things like this. We have a TV show that people can call into. We put our views out there, but people have to approach us We don't go to a public place and ambush them like Ray Comfort and people
Right.
do.
Some people, we've gotten this a little bit, that some people seem to think that our mere existence of our television show on Sunday constitutes some sort of invasion. But we're on a TV screen. We can't touch you. We can't get in your way. We can't prevent you from going to church. You have to come to us.
And there's this weird little rectangle thing with batteries in it that has buttons on it. And if you don't like the things that we say, you can always turn away. I mean,
Assuming you don't keep losing it like I do.
seriously, if not, there's little buttons on the front of the screen. And if nothing else, you can shoot it like Elvis.
Yeah.
It's just so silly. You can make
If you
it
got
go-
the budget.
There's a difference. We don't, it's weird. 'cause-
Okay, if you're going to shoot the TV to get rid of Ask an Atheist, could you film it and send it to us? That would be amazing. I would
Yes.
completely use that on the show.
But yeah, it's amazing. Again, it's not really censorship because one, he's preventing other people from using the material at the library, and if I would just go into a library and just start screaming anything, they would kick me out.
It's not. He's not banned for his speech. He was removed from the library because he was preventing library patrons from accessing materials provided by
And creating an environment where people don't want to use the library.
Right.
I mean, that's a big part of it as well. So it's just kind of amazing. It's not that it's the substance of his speech, but how he's doing it and where he's doing it and what the context is. And I think this is the interesting thing with a lot of conspiracy-minded people, is they have a tendency to turn everything into, you're trying to silence my message, where it's like, no, I mean, it has nothing to do with your message, just don't do that. And
You
it's
can
kind
go
of,
50 feet outside the building and continue with your message, and nobody's going to stop you.
no one's going to stop you. It's just amazing that people think that they have carte
Assuming you
blanche.
continue with your message and not continue
Yeah,
with your
'cause-
message and a baseball bat.
It's like somebody can come up to me and harass me at the door of the library with something I agree with, like, hey, isn't Citizen Kane a great film? And if they keep following me around and trying to get an agreement out of me, I'm like, whoa, I don't care.
That
Just back
happens to me a
off.
lot with political things I actually agree with. Is I'm on my way to something and they're like, well, we got this I-9,000,007 that's about widgets, and I'm like, well, I agree with widgets, but I really have to go this. I'm running out of time, and then they get in your face and stuff like that, and that stops being speech and stops being the. Some people feel differently, but I feel like if you're getting in my way, that stops being
Yeah.
speech and turns into something
Well,
else.
as soon as somebody says no, it's done.
It should be.
But at the same time, not everyone is comfortable saying no, and we live in one of the most passive-aggressive regions in the country. So
Yes.
a lot of times the real answer is they just don't go to the library anymore. And if people don't go to the library, they're probably not going to get as much funding as they do. If
And
that
then the
stuff is-
libraries disappear, and libraries are having enough trouble as it is.
I mean, I don't want to do a slippery slope argument, but again, if there's somebody annoying outside of the library every time I go, I'm going to go to a different library.
Yeah.